Welcome to the Ultimate Gamer Podcast, a show that features conversations with the trailblazers, thought leaders, decision makers, and investors who are defining the gaming and esports space. On the Ultimate Gamer Podcast, we take a journey into this dynamic industry and start to decode and reveal who and what's making news. It's about connecting, and it's about sharing the stories and vision of the people who make gaming and esports a global phenomenon. And now, please welcome your host, student of the game and connector to the esports community, Tommy Knapp.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tommy Knapp, and this is an all-new episode of the All About the Game podcast, presented by the Ultimate Gamer. On today's show, I have a conversation with Pravetz, president of media and branding at the Misfits Gaming Group. Her role with Misfits expanded from creative director to her current position as the company itself underwent significant expansion in the past few years. Under the Misfits umbrella, Ella oversees media and branding for the Misfits League of Legends team, the Florida Mayhem Overwatch League roster, the team that competes for the Florida Mutineers in the Call of Duty League, as well as a handful of other competitive gamers and content creators that make up this top 10 global esports org. With a background in creative and performing arts, Ella found her way into the gaming industry, joining Fnatic in Berlin, Germany as a content creator. We discussed her path to Misfits and the challenges along the way before focusing on the impact of her role within an org that has multiple brands, narratives, and personalities that must all tie back into the authentically resonating overall mission and culture of the organization. Towards the end of our conversation, she shared information about the status of the new Misfits headquarters in Boca Raton, and she also updated me on their events and plans amidst the pandemic. I do not know how she finds enough time in the day. Please join me now for my conversation with Ella Pravetz.
What I like to do, we met at the Super Bowl party that you guys hosted.
At the Anti-Cable, yeah.
So why don't we just start there? Why don't we just start talking about that, and then we'll rewind to where, like, you went to school, how you got into gaming, and kind of go from the beginning of Are You a Gamer kind of thing. Yeah. But we met at
You a Gamer?
Yeah, so we met at that Super Bowl event that you guys did. What was the Super Bowl event, and what was your role in it?
Yeah, so the Super Bowl event we did was around our Call of Duty players, and it was actually an event that we did as a partnership. I think we were working with Verizon and Melka at the time.
Yeah, and who were you, because we don't even think we just started right in, who were you with? Like, who did that?
Yeah, so I work with Misfits Gaming Group, which has 3 franchises in it. We have Misfits Gaming, we have Florida Mayhem, and we have the Florida Mutineers. So we were there with our Call of Duty Florida Mutineers.
Florida Mutineers.
Exactly.
Okay.
So our Call of Duty guys were there. It was a live stream event. My role in that was largely actually just like coverage of the event and using my team for all of our socials and making sure we do that. It was a kind of an event partnership initiative thing. So we were making sure all of our branding is there, it's in line, but it was kind of a giant activation in the local area.
Do you know, did you work with the Super Bowl committee to line that up, or how did you guys get involved with that? Because that's big. And are you guys going to do the same thing next year in Tampa, do you think?
Good question. I'm not sure. That was more of a partnerships team initiative. So for that one, I know that we are VP, or like I think her title is VP of Sales or VP of Partnerships. She's really connected. She came from Fox Sports, so she had a lot of connections around that in terms of getting the Super Bowl talent, everyone around there. So they were trying to really marry the local talent from that with our guys. So I'm pretty sure we will have future events that are similar, but a large purpose of that was kind of make our splash in the Florida scene, coming off.
Yeah, it was a super cool event.
Yeah, it was super cool. Yeah. Really cool to have there.
So, and we're going to get right back into, towards the end, the Misfits, Mutineers, and the Mayhem. But how did you get involved in gaming? Like, did you start out as a gamer? Did you playing at 4, 5, 6 years old? Or what got you into the business?
Yeah, so it's a good question and a weird story. So, for me, when I was younger, I gamed a lot. So, because my brother was a big gamer. So, when I was like middle school, I played like World of Warcraft and, it was always all the different educational games a lot growing up, different things like, Jumpstart 4th grade. What are some of the like weird...
Jumpstart 4th grade.
Yeah, like all these educational things and stuff like that as well. Just computer gaming was big in my family.
And where were you living at this point?
I grew up in Silicon Valley, so in the Bay Area.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So it's in your blood, kind of.
Yeah, my dad's software engineer, had a computer growing up really early. And then, just tons of different types of games. In high school, I was less involved. I was like really very much a creative person, and I think to be honest, it's something we could talk about. But I think the culture of gaming was part of the reason that I wasn't, as into it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, even in your, I think in your Twitter, you say something like that, like you're creative, not a, what's it say? Creative disguised as managerial?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So my background was super creative. Like I grew up I was like a theater kid a lot of the time, from age 8 to, 24, was constantly doing that kind of performance stuff, creating things, doing photography, art, all that shebang.
Were you on stage as well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, when I was younger, yeah.
What was your favorite? Like, did you play somebody like Snow White or something?
No, way more like Arkadina and the Chekhov's The Seagull, stuff
okay.
like that. A little bit more
yeah.
literature-y, but I think
yeah,
some
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, in middle school, I was like Jasmine and Aladdin at one point,
Okay.
those kind of things. But
Yeah, that's a big role.
that is a big role.
Yeah.
It's very juicy for 6th grade.
Yeah. So you have the creative side.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So very creative background. And then when I was in university, I actually studied, weird, but I studied theater at UCLA. So as we just talked about. And I got in for acting and ended up double tracking and directing while I was there.
Okay.
So that was my really intro into a lot of, marrying different creative aspects of the industry, because we would work with designers, we'd work with, our lighting designers, every aspect of it. And I did a lot of photography on the side.
So you're in front of the camera and behind the camera. And not even just behind the camera, but all the
Direct, yeah.
Yeah, all the strategy behind.
Yeah. So a lot of that creative process, I would say, is still stuff that I use in my work today.
Yeah, I would think
completely,
so.
yeah.
Right.
So I was working for producers in entertainment after I graduated, and I was kind of like, one of them was the former VP comedy of Fox, and one of them had co-created The Daily Show. So these two women, and they were like selling shows, pitching shows. And at the time, it was like great at first, but it got to a certain point where we were kind of like, we weren't really selling shows. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do and all this stuff. And I had a friend at the time who was in my directing program at UCLA and was working at Riot. He ended up getting a random job in Berlin,
Okay.
working for Fnatic and making some content with them. And I had always been doing videography and shooting, and I was more internet savvy than most of our peers and, all this kind of stuff. And at one point, he was like, I hate our current videographer, which sounds bad, but he was like, would you...
You're not throwing anybody under the bus.
Nobody
no
under
names,
the bus.
Right?
No names. I don't think anyone would even know the reference here. But he was like, would you want to come to Berlin and work with me? And I was like...
And you're in LA at this
Yeah,
point.
I'm in LA at this
You had
point.
left UCLA. You graduated.
I graduated
Right,
UCLA. I was a year out of college
Right.
almost. And I was like, I mean, yeah, like I'd be down. Pretty like pipe shoot. Like,
Right.
who knows if that's going to happen. And then I got, about a week later, I got a call at 4 a.m. because I think they forgot about time zones, my time.
Right.
And basically they were like, how soon can you be here?
Wow.
So on the spot, I was like, I need at least 2 weeks to quit my job.
Did you actually interview?
No, friend from
Right,
school, right?
right,
I'd worked
right,
with him a ton. He knew my work
right.
ethic. He knew working with me.
Right.
He was a big gamer as well. So it's just like, so then I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I basically packed all my stuff, like found a sublet for my lease. My mom came down, drove down to LA, and like moved within 2 weeks
Right.
to Berlin, completely cold.
And you don't speak German.
Don't speak German. Now I
Right.
speak a little bit, but
Right.
like didn't speak any German, and was probably couch surfing for like the first 6 months or so. And I got stuck straight in with Fnatic, and that was like right before playoffs for them, because they were like just struggling to get the content they needed. So I ended up going to like within a month, I ended up going and I was filming and making all the content series for them and going to like European finals, and then went to Worlds with them within like 2 months of starting. So
Right.
it was just like. And I remember specifically the first moment I walked into that room, because I was so used to working with entertainment people and comedians and all this different stuff. I remember walking and being like, "Hi, I'm Ella. I'm going to work with you guys." And all of them just like
Yeah.
barely
the
looked
players
at me.
or the staff
players
or-
barely looked at me. You
Right,
know, it
right,
was
right,
just like it was such a culture shock that
Yeah,
first
yeah,
moment.
yeah.
You know, because I went straight to the LAC studio, right backstage, right to the pros.
Yeah.
You know, not this kind of intro to the scene from the side, and it was just like, bam, okay,
Right.
I need to adapt to this
Did you
world.
have, when you went there, because you do kind of come from this, when you're in drama, when you're around creatives, I mean, they're very big, right? They play
Yeah.
big. When you were like flying over, or at any time, were you like, thinking about this? Like, what are they going to be like, the players? Or was it one of those where you really weren't thinking about it, and then you walked in and you just naturally, like you said, most people that you've been around are very gregarious and they're outgoing, and then these guys weren't, and then it struck you then.
I think I expected it. I don't think I expected the extremity of it.
Okay.
So I was thinking a lot about like I think I was really focused on like what kind of content can we make with them? How can we create circumstances or stakes? Because I assumed they're not going to be actors, they're not going to be characters.
Right.
I didn't realize. I think going into it, like, first of all, how much the pros game per day, how many constraints, and also how much most of them don't like being in front of the camera working
Right.
on it, despite the fact that they need to be marketed. So that is, like, to this day, one of the most challenging and consistent, struggles within the industry, or in my job specifically, is
with
how
the,
do we
with the pros,
with
the
the pros.
gamers, not your content creators.
No,
obviously.
not the content
Right,
creators.
right.
How do you, because I work, especially we have a lot of esports teams, how do you get the pros to be likable? How do you get them on camera in a marketable way? And how do you make content or create content that, creates circumstances that makes them naturally show their personality and
Right,
stuff
right.
versus, it being scripted and you just, turn on the camera.
So you have
and
to
they're-
dig in deep with
Oh,
each
yeah.
one of them, because everyone you got,
Oh, yeah.
if you got 5 people on a team,
Yep, and you
each
need
one
to-
of them is very different.
Yep, and you make little deals with them too. I mean, I remember like when I'd be in Worlds, I'd say like, look, the more you turn to the camera and just tell me what's going on, the less, I'm gonna have to pull you aside for interviews later. And instantly, you do that in their head, and they're like, oh, this means less of that. They're like, hey, so we're here, and like, and I'm like, thank you, So you figure out what they want, what they care about, and then you have to like adapt around it a lot.
Yeah. So talk about that line. You said it right before we got on. You talked about subculture and pop culture, and that's kind of what we're talking about to some degree, right?
Yep.
So talk about that. Where are we today when you reference subculture to really we're in pop culture right now?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it really depends on like so many aspects, right? I said right before we started recording, I was talking about, I think previously a lot of gaming was a subcultural thing, and now it's becoming more pop culture with the younger generation. Gen Z is like very, very pop culture. That being said, I still think it depends on where you are. Like in Korea and China, it's been pop culture for a lot longer, and it's
Right.
much bigger. Europe, it's still more subculture based on, just it's harder with all the languages to, get stuff across and monetize it as easily with all the different cultural differences. In the US, you're really seeing it, especially with games like Fortnite. It is not subculture. It is pop culture. Everyone's growing up wanting to be, a star gamer now. Whereas 10 years ago, like no one even knew that. 15 years ago, no one even knew that was a possibility.
Right.
So anyone who became a pro early on, it was relatively incidental, right? There wasn't somebody going in and being like, yeah, I want to be famous. Yeah, I want to make a ton of money. It just
Right, because it didn't exist really, right? So
Yeah.
you didn't really want to be it because there weren't 6-figure deals out there for players.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So there's a major difference between, those pros I know that are veterans that have been playing, they're 26, 27 now or older versus, the clixes that I'm working with now, or the 17-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds. Like their entire understanding of the world, the reason they were motivated to get into it, what their goals were in the industry are completely different.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. When you went to Misfits, or not Misfits, when you went to Fnatic.
At first, yeah.
So when you were over there, you're in Berlin. First of all, you don't speak the language.
No.
Kind of just being thrown in, like you
Yeah.
said. You're learning all these guys. You're creating. What are you creating there? You're creating their strategy on the.
At that point, I was just creating the docuseries. So I was filming and editing. So I was going with the team, turning over these kind of sitcom-y type behind-the-scenes documentaries like every week at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I had this conversation with Alan Fang. He's in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and he was talking about what his role. He actually has to. When he's looking at his demo and he's looking at the target that they're talking to, the people they're talking to, he has to look at different countries that are following them and try to speak to them in their language.
Yep.
So like, and you brought it up just a minute ago because then I hadn't thought about it, but now you're in Europe, you're in
Yep.
Germany, but Fnatic has a huge following.
Yep.
So when you do this docuseries, you're doing it in German probably, right?
In English.
Oh, you're doing it in English?
Yeah,
okay.
Yep, and that's actually one of the reasons why. Fun fact, but the LEC is based in Berlin is because it's one of the few countries in Europe that allows you to broadcast in English. Like certain countries like France, Spain, they make you, if you're broadcasting there, it has to be in the native language.
Okay.
So because most Europeans speak English, the general scene exists in English, and a lot of those gamers actually learn English through gaming together, right? Because
Right.
it's the universal language that they can share.
Right.
That being said, there's still different, roadblocks to the way you can play with language or use language or cultural similarities, so it affects the scene in that way.
Wow. So you get there. You were only given 2 weeks. You're okay. You have the job.
Yep.
Yeah. What was your plan? I mean, because it's a lot, right?
It was a lot,
You're jumping in,
yeah.
and that's one of the top brands, one of the top in the country, one of the top orgs in the world, and not that country in the world.
Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, I had. It was like survival mode. It was like sink or swim. In my head, I had like the Eminem line, going, you got one shot.
You got one shot. Do
Pretty
not
much,
miss your
like
chance.
exactly. I
Yeah.
basically was like, look, like, how often do you get to go into a scene like this that's like kind of budding and early on, and there's a lot of startups and there's a lot of nobody really has their proper footing yet. How often do you get to go into that and potentially succeed? Not often. And so like, okay, and at that point I was on a freelance contract at the beginning before a full-time one too. You're really like, okay, I've got to either make something that's valuable, that works, and then you have all these obstacles again. If the players don't want to do it, and you're like, oh my God, you're the obstacle to my success, all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I'm sure you have an image, like with this player, like I've got this great great idea. I want to work. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
going to be amazing. And then if
No,
they're
you
giving
can't. Yeah.
yeah.
So your constraints are that is the biggest thing I'd say. Somebody who works from the outside of the scene looking in don't realize is how many constraints are there. They have no idea.
Right.
You know, from the players, you know, personalities and willingness to do stuff to just, you know, the amount of practice hours they need to availability to just resources and all of this kind of stuff. Like there's so many constraints. So to really be creative within that is quite challenging.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh yeah, do whatever and they're going to be happy to do it. Absolutely not. You know what I mean?
Right. So when you rolled over there, and again, you've kind of got an idea, and you're getting this chance. Who's giving you direction at that time? Is it the CEO? Is it the president? Who are you working hand in hand with every day?
My friend that brought me over, but other than that, pretty much nothing, because they were centralized in the UK and Fnatic, so they had their Berlin office with the team. So basically, it was like, I think it was Sam Matthews, who's the CEO at the time. He just wanted to bring back what it was like Life of Legends at the time, which was a successful docu-series they'd had in the early days of esports.
When we say early days, because I love the timeline stuff, early days of esports, we're talking about when?
Like 2015, 2014, so pretty early comparatively for other stuff.
Yep. But only 6 years ago.
Yeah, only 6 years ago, yeah. So, but a big part of the challenge was already the audience is changing. One of the reasons those original docuseries succeeded was because at the time there was a big question. Like it answered a question of what does the life of a pro gamer look like?
Right.
And by this point, people already knew. Everyone had like 4 or 5, you know, docu-series out at this point. Most teams had caught up and did it. So it was no longer like a unique
fresh,
market. Yeah.
Right.
So I had to figure out like, okay, you know, how do I get the views? Like, how do we twist it? You know, how do we show the players' personalities and stuff? So one of the things I started doing was, you know, coming from working in more kind of comedy TV stuff with my old bosses, was trying to make it more sitcom-y and more like the 1, 2, 3 little bits, more behind the scenes, you know, like the little struggle of this player not forgetting his shoes before he was going on stage, right? And like trying to make it a bit less structured and more kind of off guard, you know, behind the scenes docu.
So when you're doing something like that, though, does that mean you have to shoot more film because you're trying to capture more of those kind of moments?
You were non-stop filming and recording. It was like when I was in Worlds with them, it was like crazy schedule. Like I'd be filming with them for, you know, 8 to 10 hours a day, like going with them, you know, the rickety buses in Wuhan to like, you know, backstage and just recording nonstop, like copying cards over so you had all the footage. Because again, they're not doing much most of the time, but if they do something, you don't want to miss the moment, you know. And then it would be taking it home late at night and then like editing it all and trying to turn over in a week. Like I was pulling all-nighters like every week while we were at Worlds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is again, and that's a ton. If you're with them the whole time, you probably have, maybe you even mark it in your own on your phone or something, like this time this cool thing happened, because you're going to continue filming that whole day. Yeah. And you don't want to watch 10 hours of film. You don't have that time to watch 10 hours.
Yeah, you're going through it fast.
You're going through it really quick.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's one of those things that I thought about. So again, with the org, so now how many people do they have on staff? You're coming in and you're the one creating that, but how many camera people do you have? How many editing people do you have?
Me.
You're like everything.
Yeah, for the League of Legends team there, yeah.
Wow.
And I was pretty green too, so it was like one of those, like, you know, there'd be things where I was like, and Fnatic's a big brand, right? Like they don't care if they're hiring someone assuming, you know, you can do XYZ, not really thinking about how much are we paying this person, what are their capabilities. They're just like, well, if you're good, you're good. If you're not, you're not. You know, that's pretty much all they care about. Like, can you figure it out? If not, we'll try to find someone else.
Sure.
So it was like, it was a struggle. I mean, more stress than I think I've ever been in my whole life was that like 3-month period.
Right.
In the beginning, yeah.
So at the beginning, so how long were you there at Fnatic?
I was there for like 3 or 4 months, and then after the Worlds run, the series did really well. So I actually ended up having a few offers from different teams at the time, and I probably can't like go into which ones, but I ended up wanting to stay in Berlin because I was like, this isn't over. Like, it's so cool. I'm in Europe, you know. But I ended up taking a job for Misfits, and they wanted me a bit more as a creative director as well, so I'd have a bit more control at the time, which I loved because I had just been doing all this cool stuff, and you know, again, my background was more directing, so I was like, please, like, don't make me just a tech person. Like, I'm really good for coming up with like more higher level concept stuff. Right. So I ended up taking the job there when I was going to work for actually I was going to work for Hacks. I don't know if you know Hacks. They're like a clothing like esports team. And then day before, like, Ben called me or cold emailed me, and we picked up the phone and kind of, you know, up to the offer.
Wow,
and,
just
I ended up,
one of those
I was at home for Christmas, and then flew back and started working with the Misfits team the next day. And they had nothing at the time infrastructure-wise in Berlin. I was the first person non-competitive staff hired there. Wow. So that was like, I thought Fnatic was like one level, you know, of like, because their office in the UK, and then they had some of us working freelance. Like Misfits at that point, totally another those players weren't even used to making content. They were like a new team, like a year old. You know, Ben had acquired a challenger team. It was like so we have to make content, guys. And they're like,
Yeah.
I remember keeping my equipment in the corner of the gaming house, and sitting them down on beanbag chairs and being like, what kind of content do you guys like?
Well, it's funny you say that because I remember when I first met Ben, he was one of the first people I met, and I wanted to surround myself when I got into esports and gaming with all the experts and leaders in the space because then your learning curve is much quicker.
Yep.
Right? So he was one of the first ones, and he was, very kind to spend a lot of time with me. He came down and spoke at Miami Marlins when I was there in the Diamond Club, and then I came to his office, spent time with him. But when I was talking to him, because I was trying to figure out, one of the things I did with the Marlins was I dug deep into businesses.
Yeah.
And I learned about them. So I was like looking at esports and gaming, and I'm like, wait a second. So, they've got these teams, and they're playing all over the world, but where's the staff? And so I asked him, we were talking about it. And at that time, this is 3 years ago, I was coming from the Marlins, and we have like 225, 250 people on staff. The org chart, goes from the president, vice presidents, directors, managers. And you've got everybody in it. And I sat down with Ben, and I'm like, who is it? And he's like, well, it's me. And that was it. Like in Boca.
Yep,
it was the investors and his
yep.
owners, and him as the CEO. And then he said, basically, we have the team. But aside from the team, it really isn't. And then I think you may have come on them because he said had somebody on the content side that was starting to build that out.
That was about
so you're one of the first ones.
Yep, just over 2.5 years ago. So at that point, that would have been probably me. Yeah.
So that's very exciting to me, to have you here talking about that because I spoke to Ben like 3 weeks ago on the pod. But you're coming in. That was he kind of helped build out you. But now you're coming in as one of the first hires.
Yep.
What have you seen like in the 2.5 years? Because your role has gone from creative director to now president of branding and and marketing and media and branding.
It's the biggest mind. I was about to swear, but blowing. The amount of change that I've seen within the org and that amount, and it is hard. Scaling that fast is like, you know what I mean? Because you go from, my day-to-day challenges were like, how do I take my stuff on the U-Bahn, from like here to film to there and like coordinating things like simple like public transport down to like, okay, now I have a team of 15 or I have a team of 20 and now we have 3 franchise brands that I'm managing across the board. We have all these different channels and there's new social medias and TikToks coming in and all this stuff. And now we've tripled our sales efforts and now we have to produce all of this, branded content. Like how do you do that?
Right.
So just insane. Going from, getting a small team there and starting to get the infrastructure, we had, I think, like a remote 19-year-old social media manager at the time and like me, and then it's just so much critical thinking, right? Like each step of the way, and some of it's hard and some of it's painful and some of it's amazing, right? But yeah, I mean, it's completely different. It's a completely different org than what it was, 2.5 years ago. It's not even the same job, comparable.
Yeah, well, you can see, and because now you guys do have an org chart. And now you're responsible for other people.
Yeah, I helped make that org chart. That was a big, same thing. We weren't in franchising. Like it was so funny at that point. It was right before franchising and LEC happened. Yep. Ben and I wrote that app largely together. Like he flew me down to Boca, and I was supposed to be like making content. I was like, this is my off season, but we come down, and I had to write the whole branding and content section. And here I am, like 24 years old, being like, this is like a $11 million deal, and I'm writing like all the media and branding stuff for this. Like, what am I doing? But Riot loved it. It ended up being one of the better written like brand sections. So I'm pretty sure that's what endeared me to Ben. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, let's go through that a little bit then. Yeah. When you started was Misfits Gaming, and then we'll talk about the other franchises. So Misfits Gaming, you come in, Ben hires you. You're actually still in Berlin.
Yep.
What is your role and what are you doing there? Because now, and it's kind of fun to go through this exercise because Misfits already has a brand at this point. The 2 new franchises that come in, you actually have to help create the brand. Right, but is that correct?
Mayhem had the logo as well at the point that I came in, I think, or just about. Misfits had a logo. I wouldn't say they had a brand.
Okay.
So that was a big part of it.
Yeah. So explain some of that because that's an interesting story to talk about the creation, the culture of, okay, here's what our logo is, but what does that logo mean?
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of that, thankfully, was actually pushed by the exercise of having to do the franchising because it forced us to answer a lot of those questions, right? Do a lot of the exercise around that. Yep. For me, I really took the word misfit and like turned it on its head, right? Because I was like, okay, well, this is pretty simple. We start with the word misfit, right? It's somebody who kind of inconspicuously doesn't fit in entirely and is kind of an outsider. I was like, well, let's champion the outsider. You know what I mean? And that can take two ways of thinking of that. You can look at it in a very wholesome way, like a very like all-inclusive, which is a big brand pillar of ours, like diversity inclusive. But there's also this, mischievous nature of that, of someone who's,
it's
constantly.
It's a great word, by the way.
Mischievous.
Mischievous is good because mischievous can be, like you said, mischievous can be a little bit dangerous, but also a little bit fun.
Exactly.
Right.
So mischievous, I think, is one of the best brand words for us because it can be a little dangerous,
And
but
it's
a little
another
bit
M.
fun. And it's another M. So it's this kind of playful trickstery, which rabbits are often symbols for like trickery as
That's
well.
right out of the hat. Yeah.
And it allows us the flexibility to take it seriously and be a bit darker, but it also allows us to, have that fun when we need it. So that was really important to me because I'm sure, as you know, like memes, all this jokey stuff, that stuff does really well on the internet. So you can't just take yourselves too seriously all the time. You have to create a brand that allows for that flexibility, but still has a very kind of clear positioning and look and feel.
Yeah.
So initially when we did it, I'd say the brand that we started defining was a lot more wholesome. It was a lot more playful at first because I was very like mischief in a more positive way and a more, like all-inclusive. And if you're an outsider, like you can be part of Misfits, like we're the champion of the underdog. Right. We started losing a lot at a certain point. Shit, yeah. And then we started signing a lot of Fortnite players. And to be honest, I was like, it doesn't quite fit anymore. So we had to do this like subtle rebrand where we made it like, the kind of tagline I took at the time was, we're done being nice, but we're not done playing games. So
I saw that.
And that was our
good,
like slight rebrand was like, okay, let's take this a little bit darker. And you saw like it's kind of internally it was called.
I want you to talk about that. I mean, keep going, but I want you to talk about that. Actually, I have it on my video right now. That 1 minute clip because it's really really cool how you did that.
Yeah, that one was awesome. Yeah. So that was internally our revenge rebrand because we had done so badly. And I was like, we cannot be the same. Kind of happy-go-lucky, like it just the narrative doesn't fit,
that.
right?
I like that.
So we're like, all right, let's. And again, we have these Fortnite players. They're a little bit more toxic, a little bit more, a little bit more in your face, a little bit more ego-driven. I was like, yeah, this kind of like wholesome, all-inclusive is not quite the move anymore. So
well, and you can go on an annual basis, kind of on a seasonal basis, right? You
Absolutely.
can tweak things because in pro sports, same thing.
Yep.
Every year, there's a new sales campaign. It has a new tagline.
Yep. So for us, it was really, at the core was finding the brand pillars and then creating the flexibility. So if you really, our brand pillars are like inclusivity and diversity is huge for us, and you'll see that across our leadership board as well and our initiatives. Risk taking and like thinking outside the box is also really big for us, like incubator stuff that we're doing, also just kind of the different franchises we get into. And the third one is kind of like charitable altruism and stuff. So those are like our three things, but outside of that, just creative stuff, all the time. Like, how do you want to interpret the narrative and how do you want to adapt that, right?
So talk to me about the bunny because when I watched it, again, when you just watch it, it's just really cool when you watch it. But it's a live bunny. At least it looks like a live bunny. And then it's twisting and turning.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, you can explain it. It's a 1 minute clip, but I just watched it this morning before we got on the pod, and I thought it was fantastic. I showed my kids. I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah, so that is like the best embodiment of that rebrand, right? Because we were talking about the idea of a bunny is this, cute, symbol of innocence and love and all these different things.
Yeah, it starts with the camera's on him and his little whiskers are just tweets.
And that was kind of our story too, right? So we wanted to put a symbolic representation of that. You started out a little bit wholesome and like, oh, we're the misfits, we're the outsider, and then it's like a little bit of that Joker-esque thing we want to talk about is when when it's a little teased too much, a little bit too dark, it can twist and turn and it becomes like a shadow of your nightmare. So we wanted to really creatively, and you'll see that in a lot of our imagery.
Shadow of your nightmare.
Yeah, and so take that into, and you see that, the shadow of the bunny grows, and it's this, and it's supposed to be, symbolic of the kind of, the dark side of yourself that can like haunt and come out, and that ambition and that fear and that like waiting in the shadows to kind of come get you when you least expect it, when you underestimate us, when you talk to us down too long, that we'll be there waiting to come back and claws out and come get you. So that is kind of what the theme there was this idea of turning something cute on his head, and you see that with the camera work, right, like quite literally turning, and then from that like the shadow and the representation of that. So that's where that comes from.
Very well done.
Thank you.
It's very fun. It's very cool, and
Thanks
it speaks to everything you're talking about.
Great crew working on that.
So tell me a little bit about that, because I'm just interested. Is this something like you dream up when you're in the shower, when you're behind the wheel of the car driving down the street? Do you guys have a whiteboard and you're throwing ideas down? Like, where does that narrative come from? Because that 1 minute piece is a lot of work, right? So how does that happen? Do you storyboard it? Like, where does that all come from?
Yeah, it starts with, all of the ideas, of course, start with where the initial storyboarding for the year, right? So a lot of that idea was based off of stuff we had, So I worked with some really cool artists on this one, and sometimes we'll pull in outside artists to do that, so the VFX, and we collaborated on that one specifically. And that initially came from, again, when we did the jersey concept at the beginning of the year, what I just talked about, like those concepts of the revenge theme.
Yep.
It was that simple. Revenge was the first word I started with, right? And then working backwards from that, getting those like Donnie Darko vibes in there. And then from that, we talk about the different symbols and elements and like what it meant. And then, you start to flesh out the little bits from there. So, okay, so if we're talking about this, core idea of, kind of needing revenge or feeling like you've been trodden on too long. Like, how do you represent that visually? So, yeah, of course, everyone's, storyboarding it. They're creating pre-visualization exercises, all these things. But the first thing you do is you talk about those core theme elements, right? What we talked about. Okay, what's actually happening to the team? Oh, they were downtrodden. Something bad happened to them. They're getting beaten down. So we took a darker turn, right? So, and you create visual mood boards as well. So I'll give, any artist I'm working with, I'll create all these visual mood boards. I use Pinterest and pull tons of different references, and I'll use our different design things we've done. And so from that, you start to create the story, marry it with the symbolism, marry it with the particular narrative related to, to this one. In this case also, Kabe came back from NA for us, who's a big player, and back to EU. So that was a bit of the feature as well, was, having him at the end of it. So you find out all those core constraints, you find out the direction you want to go in, you create a visual mood board, and then you start to, piece together the story.
And that's what I was looking for. I'm looking for that, because it's one of those things, like, again, we talk about playing a game, and when you play the game, you're just playing the game. But if you go back, and I've spent time now talking to developers, and you go back and look what goes into developing a game, it's amazing. So a 1 minute piece like this, you're like, oh, that's really cool. But the amount of time, like this is not a 1 minute. This is maybe months of a process of coming up with like the core theme, and then
if you really break it down too, and you can't look at it in a vacuum, right? Because the theme was already existing before. And when did the theme happen? The theme happened in December of last year, right? Like probably wasn't a shower of me like thinking we were actually doing some bad jersey designs for a bit. Not bad, but like not interesting. And there was a point, we were I think we were really time constrained, and we kept just linking to like football jerseys, and I was like, this isn't us. Like, this is not bold. This is not, we want to work outside the box. We want to lean into being more creative. And I kind of scrapped everything, and I said, sorry to our designer, and I was like, sorry. And I gave her a mood board of like 3 themes at the time, and you pull those images and you think like revenge, revolution was another one, and I can't remember what the third one was. But yeah, from that you see what works. So it really is, it's all those, it's, it's a creative process, right? It takes a lot of refining and building.
Yeah, but I have great respect for that, when you see that, because again, it looks, a lot of times people don't realize how much work and effort goes into that. It's a lot of time.
Never do, especially to make something that's really good, like it's...
Yeah, and I love it. Like, I'm one of those people that really resonate with it. I think it's super cool. I think it's fun. I think it's mischievous. But I also think it's like, it's tough. You know, like when you think about the Miami Hurricanes, they have the Ibis. You normally, if you say an Ibis, you think, whatever, but then they give it like a little bit of a patch, and they make him a little strong, and everything, and then all of a sudden it's like a cool mascot.
How do you turn? Exactly. And something that I think I thought a little bit at the beginning that I kind of realized, I'm like, why am I fighting this? Was not leaning into the masculinity enough. And then at a certain point, I was like, why? Most of our audience is guys. Like, why am I like, I have this self-righteous about like, and at a certain point, I went, no, like, I need to like go hard into it. Like, I'm like, put my like guy cap on. I'm like, think like a bro, what do they care about? What do they want to see? Like, how do I make this edgier? Like, how do I make it like not cringe for them? Right. All those kind of things.
So obviously we're working a lot on the creative side, and you've got this kind of content, or this is a piece, this is like a promotional piece, right?
Yeah, that was our hype video for this summer split.
Okay, so you've got the hype video. Talk about some of the other things that are under your cap. So obviously you just talked about the gear that you guys have, and you probably have drops. How often do you do drops, and how,
changing, getting more and more as we go, but it'll probably be about 3 to 4 times a year that we'll have like major merch drops. Okay. So
and how's the merch doing?
Pretty well. We've like over doubled our sales from the year before.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's constantly improving and growing. So again, like we were barely anything, right? Like most of our time in the last year has been making our internal infrastructure.
Right.
Nobody realizes that, right? Like everyone thinks, oh, they're just whatever their output is. They see the tip of the iceberg. They don't see all the organization, coordinating of people, figuring out systems and who to hire, and
Well, you guys, I mean, you're putting out a lot of really cool, fun stuff right now. So it's you can see the hard work of putting the foundation in the levels there.
I'd say most of that work happened over a year ago. If you think about it, right? It's setting yourself up to be able to do that in a snap, and that is what takes a lot of time, right? It's not most people can think of a good idea, but how do you execute, and across the board, right? Like how do you how do you make sure that it can tie into whatever partner needs you have, that it's on brand, that it deals with every single constraint you have. And that is where, like, the average person who's new to esports will come in and be like, I have a great idea. And you're like, how are you going to do it?
Right. Yeah.
You
have a great idea, or you've got all the critics out there like, why isn't the team winning? Why isn't the team doing this? Why isn't the team doing? Well, first of all, the team is only like 3 people, right? Right? So they can't do everything.
Yeah.
But now, as you build out the infrastructure, now you can start doing that, and you start. I'm like, actually, I don't say the word flabbergasted, but the amount of content that you guys are putting out and the quality of it, I'm blown away. Like, seriously.
Hard.
And I told you that before when I
too.
first met you. I'm like, I don't know how you sleep. Yeah, so perfect segue.
Yeah.
So we talked a bunch about Misfits, and that's the umbrella, right?
Yep.
And Misfits Gaming Group.
Yep.
So get into a little bit about Mayhem, because that came next.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about Mutineers.
Yeah. So Mayhem, obviously Overwatch franchise we got into. I wasn't working with them as much earlier. I was more working with the Misfits brand until this year. So then I started, came across to manage kind of everyone, because it was like, oh, you've done a great job over in Berlin. Like, let's bring you to Florida and let's get you around everything. Yeah. So Mayhem's brand, again, different constraints. I wasn't used to it. Like, I would say Riot is super laissez-faire with everything. Like, they don't tell you what to do. They don't, they're just like, and you really see it, because it's almost like, capitalism, where you see the best teams are like really good and the worst teams are like not so good. Yeah, like really extreme. Whereas like you really notice in Activision Blizzard, everyone's a little more leveled out because it's quality controlled a lot more.
Right.
Much harder to pop off because there's so many more legalities and constraints. Like, the most shocking thing of starting to work with that brand for me was like getting a PowerPoint presentation of like marketing like things and like, oh yeah, you should lean into these heroes because they're performing well and like trending. I was like, what? I was like, you guys have been getting this stuff the whole time. Like, Riot never gave us that.
Right.
Super weird. Or like different things like, oh, you can't put any kind of color correction on the heroes, right, that you use for Overwatch. So I was like, okay. So I had to like relearn all these different constraints of those games.
And some of that may come from, so you have Activision, but you also have all these NFL owners that are, a lot of them, right, that are involved. Maybe, and so they come from that NFL side where everything is much more structured.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just very. They're more corporate for sure.
Right.
Yeah, and just their founding and the way they do everything, publisher and stuff. So they're way more regulated, for better or for worse. And again, in some ways, I think it really brings certain people up, right? Like, they help more with things like the logo creations, the jersey designs, all that kind of stuff. Whereas for Misfits and like Riot, it's like complete laissez-faire.
Right.
Like, did you make a jersey? Did you not?
Right.
Like, submit your designs by X amount of time.
And I used to say that, when you look at, and I don't know, this is a question. If you look at, like, it was at the Las Vegas Raiders now, right? So when they are coming into the league, you've got the entire NFL machine that's going to be telling everybody in the world that the Raiders are coming on board in the league. But if you're working with, I don't know what league to use as an example, but another pro league. Oh, I was working in the NASL. That's how I remember it, in North American Soccer League. And you bring in a team into North American Soccer League, well, the budget's not there, the marketing team isn't there, the league isn't the same strength. So you bring a team in, and ownership is like, well, why aren't we seeing like people following us? Well, because we don't have that machine and that infrastructure. So when you talk about Overwatch, and again, Overwatch, I remember when the league came out, right?
Yep.
So any new team that comes in now, same thing, right? The league is pushing them, not just in their local market, in their regional market, but globally.
Yep.
And does that happen in Riot, like in League of Legends, or is it like more on, like you're saying, is it more dependent on the team to do all of that?
Way more dependent on the team. I mean, Riot, the league was around, it's been around for a long time, and it used to be that people were getting, it wasn't franchised, so people would get promoted or relegated. So it was really survival of the fittest.
Right.
So in which case, people who were really good got big followings, right? It wasn't controlled. The downside to that, which is one of the big reasons they wanted to franchise, was it made it almost impossible to get sponsors, because no one would want to be like, well, if you could get relegated next year, like, why do I want to,
why do I want to have a 3-year agreement with you?
Yeah, they're not going to do it. So that was the kind of, like, that was the changing point. It really changed the scene. So, like, naturally, people before, it was so natural selection that they would get the following because they had to be like the best team to get in there, and if they weren't, they dropped down. So there was that kind of snowball effect of growth from those sides. But they didn't regulate like what teams made, like how they monetize it. So some teams started to figure it out more naturally, and others, I think, just floundered, or were just a competitive team with a little coverage, or maybe just had enough sponsorship to support just the competitive team, right? It wasn't this big, like, monstrous kind of corporate, like...
Yeah.
Not that we're there yet, but you know what I mean, like, yeah.
So
really
talk about the logo a little bit and how that developed.
For which one?
The Mayhem logo.
Mayhem logo. I was not as involved in the process, but I know obviously like the bomb is related to like the Mayhem and stuff, and it used to be, there was a red logo before and the yellow, and now we've done the rebrand, right, to the Vice colors. So that's kind of the explosive brand as we talk about, like, it's very kind of like in your face louder, like we encourage them to shit talk a little bit, like that kind of stuff. Mutineers came this last year, and so that one we were all more involved with for that one.
So go through that because I know that's a creative, right? A creative brief and a mood board, like you said. And
so thankfully, again, Activision Blizzard helped more with the logos for the teams and those, but they partnered with, each region. So that, it was obviously Florida, and I think Ben at that point helped with the naming process, where he even offered everyone in the company, like, so I think it was like 1K or something if somebody came with the idea, giant like Google sheet of just names, and then obviously the name Mutineers came up. So then from that, they're like, okay, like kind of like the, sea pirates that rebel and stuff like that. So I know in the initial discussions, it was all about like, different references, like, do we want sea creatures, more like, pirate type, and they kind of landed on that Davy Jones type thing, and they were incorporating elements of like palm trees in it, and some of them looked a little phallic, in the beginning drafts, but eventually, that was a pretty like, many people involved in like picking that one because it was so much later in our development, right?
Well, the thing, and I've talked about this because again, an org to me is a challenge, right? Because you've got to come up with that umbrella, you've got to kind of come up with that culture, but the other teams underneath that org, they kind of have to fit as well. You need to have them fit in to some degree. You've done a really good job of that, right? Because you've got the Misfits, and then the Mutineers are kind of like piratey, but they're a little, pirates can be kind of cool, but they're also dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
And Mayhem, I don't know about a bomb. Like, I don't know.
Well, we go with, Mayhem is, causing a little bit of trouble. So it's the same, it's the same, cause some mayhem, bring the mayhem, light it up. So we...
Yeah, and that's with the palm tree too. Is that the one you're talking about? Like
they have like the bomb with the little palm tree in the corner and the M in the center, So it's pretty basic to make sense for that, right? Like cause explosions. So yeah, we do try to tie them all together a bit, right? Yeah. We try to underlyingly have like similar thematic elements, and those three pillars I talked about earlier of the diversity, that thinking outside the box, and the kind of altruism, all of them relate to all of those brands.
All three.
And we make sure that they hit all of them.
So then talk about the content side, because now you bring in some content. You're still some gamers, but they're content creators.
Yep. So obviously, like, there's limitations to how much you can do with a pro team, right? Like they have, for example, Overwatch team, they have an hour slot a day that if they're in the office, we can do content with them.
Wow,
if you plan and figure it out, right? Which is, for shooting, like, okay, like you have to, how much can you set up and how many can you get done, and working around all those constraints. So people like influencers, content creators, if that's what you're referring to, they're really good for helping us offset that. So we're not anywhere near where we want to be. Like there's a lot of us, putting in the groundwork right now, and you'll start to see that when we have people like Samito right now, we have him every Monday on our YouTube doing like Monday Mayhem with Samito, and he's one of like the pretty organic Overwatch influencers. Okay. And so he's starting one of our base personalities, and we're going to be trying over time to, for each brand, my goal would be to have about 3 to 5 of those. Okay. Core personalities that we can grow them together, that they can interact, and then if they need to do a challenge with players, we can bring them in to kind of carry the players content-wise, to be that personality and that rock they can work off of. Right. So for us, it really opens the door to allowing players more flexibility and taking the burden of being actors off the players as well. Sure. You know what I mean? So it allows and gives voice to a lot of them. Sure. So that's kind of the key thing for that. And again, like you could have a personality going around and hosting an event. Like if you're, the Fortnite World Cup, we could send XYZ from our team there to like interview players and do whatever, and then build their brands from that one person.
How many of those people do you have right now?
We have more streamers. Like our Fortnite players are competitive. I'd say out of the personalities, we want probably only 2 or 3, but we're in the mix of signing a bunch of people and hunting them down. Okay. So that's probably our next big thing you'll start seeing from us. Okay. Because it's a big challenge, especially for like YouTube, for example. Like, because Twitter's fine with the pro team. Cover the games. They do some spicy tweets. You get some memes out there. Good. You get to YouTube and you're like, it's a little harder. Yeah. How are we gonna fill up, a week of consistent content and marry it all together and make sure the audience connects and, one audience likes the other and create these consistent personalities? And when you start tackling that one, you're like, we need some content creators. We can't just, we will never get 5 long form 10-minute videos or 7 a week from the pro players. Right. You just won't. Right. So you have to do something else.
So where are you with that? Have you created some stories? Have you created some around your content creators? I mean, is there something that comes out on a regular basis, or?
Like the Samito one is the first example. Okay. It's like we're in baby stages of that, where he's every week, publishing a certain thing on the channel for that. So that's like the first stage you're seeing that. Previously, we did more things like documentaries on people. Like you'll see, a Misfit story, XYZ, like clicks.
I love documentaries.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Good hero stories, right? Yeah. Hard to produce though, again. So it's 2 challenges you have, right? Like your hero stories that are really good, like for people that are, browsing on YouTube or searching something, but that doesn't give you that like consistent, satiable, like feeding your current audience stuff. Right. So you have to be able to, create a schedule that can have all of those things, on a certain amount coming out with like, regular programmed like hero stories, but what is the stuff that you can produce 5 days a week, every day of the week, and that's a challenge right now. How do you staff up for that? And how do you staff up that with 2 continents and 3 brands?
Yeah. So you're in the midst of that. You're doing
in the
that
midst
right
of it.
now.
It is like one of the biggest intellectual challenges I've ever, try to figure, because it's not so simple, right? It's not like, oh, we have 5 friends, that all are here at a content house and we're, trying to just make our content and get it out. It's like, no, we have 3 pro teams with 3 separate brands and legal things. And
It's really, the intricacies of all of this and what you have to go through. And again, I come from the traditional pro sports world, and when you look at traditional pro sports, then you look at this is, first of all, it's a global market.
Yep.
So it's amazing because it's global. But then you have a headquarters, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the headquarters that you guys are building out. You have a headquarters that you're building out in Boca, but then you have, the team was in LA, right? Well, the Overwatch team, you guys were playing in LA.
The team was in LA, Overwatch team,
right?
and then the other team's in Berlin.
Right?
And
so you have all these multiple, areas around the globe, and you have multiple teams speaking multiple languages, playing multiple games. And it's really a global audience. It's amazing. And when you think about how nascent the industry is, you guys are doing a great job of juggling. But in another 5 years, in another 10 years,
it's gonna be so different, though.
Yeah.
Because we're getting there, but we're not nearly where we need to be. Like for example, like Mutineers, like right now we don't have enough content coming out. Like our team's doing well, it's great, but like we need, it's really a tipping point thing, right? When you start to get to that point where you really build momentum, and getting to that point and finding the right pieces of that puzzle is really hard, because each audience is so different from one another too, right? Call of Duty fans versus Overwatch fans, like you could not like describe a more different audience base. One's like super bro-y and like loves like trending stuff, and they love like hypebeast culture. The other one's like so inclusive and loves art and like an anime and all this stuff, right? So you have to then be able to staff up for all these needs and people that can understand each audience and all of that. So intricate system.
With the Ultimate Gamer, one of the things we're trying to do is create a global community, right? You just talked about it. So it is somewhat so siloed in a sense, right? Like if you go to a DreamHack event, you'll see like the FGC community be over here with the FGC, and everybody be. But there is to me there is an overarching joy and love, it seems like, for gaming.
For sure.
Right? And so these people can interact. They may not have so much in common where they're going to hang out together all the time, but you can still get them all together. I think DreamHack does a good job of that.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you have, anything that you can bring someone together, and I mean, people who like, playing games together, there is a through line there, right?
Right.
Same thing as athletes, right? May play a different sport, but they're, both like to go outside and do whatever, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great point. So talking about some of the things you guys are doing social awareness wise and inclusivity that you're talking about, what have you done recently? Because I know you guys are doing a lot of really great stuff, and what's maybe coming up in the next 3 to 6 months?
The biggest thing we've done really recently, which I'm really excited about, is we're partnering with Equality Florida, which is one of the biggest advocacy groups for the LGBTQIA+ community. And we're super excited to partner with them because it's not just like an awareness thing. They actually go and they advocate for different like law changes locally. So for us, it was really important, especially now being based in Florida, that we make an impact here.
Yep.
So it also, one of the things they have is a business partner program, which allows us to, make sure we have certain policies that promote that and inclusivity within our own internal policies as an org. And then also, it'll help with advocacy, and we're also partnering a bit with Trevor Project too. So we'll be seeing stuff with that on streams for donations, more campaigning. We're going to create a whole hub spot on our website for, pride.misfitsgaming.gg kind of stuff. So for us, it's like a really important to have a safe space for people. And one of the amazing things when we were having that initial kickoff call with them, they were talking about is a lot of people in that community use gaming as an escape.
Sure.
From whatever culture or world they're in, and it allows them a safe space. So it's important for us that we, help use gaming to connect to that youth or that, kind of subculture community, and be like, you belong, and we're here to like, give you a place too.
Yeah.
And that's super important for us.
That's super important. That's going to be mostly through your content creators, or are you doing like events for that?
Both. Events? We'll do both. We'll throughout the year. We'll just, we'll be doing little things, little activations. I'm sure we'll have like meetups, and we'll have events, and we'll do content creation. I know one of the things in our pipeline is to get lots of stories from around the industry. I have lots of friends, very successful people in the industry I know who are LGBTQ, and so we want to get their anecdotes, and I know for a lot of them it's kind of what saved their lives, and those stories are super
that's
powerful.
Important. That's one of those things, and I think those are powerful stories, and we've got the Spotlight series here that we're talking about, but I think you're right, and I've read some and heard some stories about, and sometimes it's at college and university as well, where somebody goes to college and they have no friends, they don't know how to connect, but they connect through gaming.
Yep.
And that's one of those people that don't know, and there's a powerful ability for gaming to connect socially and potentially even save somebody's life because they're
100%.
so.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a minority and you're inherently a minority, right? This is what I always tell people. If you're LGBTQ, you are inherently a minority,
Right.
and you're always and it's gonna be hard to find your people, and you're always gonna feel a little bit like an outsider probably in certain environments. And that's the again, amazing thing about online communities is it can bring those people together in a place where they're not a minority anymore. You know, they find people who have the same challenges as them, who face the same things, and it can make you stop feeling so alone.
Yeah. It's amazing work. I know it's getting really close to the time you have to go. So, is there anything that we haven't talked about specifically that you kind of wanted to talk about?
Not for me. If there's anything from you, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we hit on a lot of the things I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about. I just know you guys are doing so much, and I really wanted to have you on because it's very exciting. Oh, the headquarters. I want to talk a little bit about that.
Go
Where
for
are
it.
you?
It's fine if we go a few minutes.
Yeah,
over
where are you
also.
guys with the HQ right now? And just tell everybody what the HQ is in Boca.
Yeah,
and,
so
how's that?
18,000 square foot facility. Straight off the bat, we're gonna have multiple teams in there, like studio for content creator space, like all this stuff in Boca Raton, Florida. So that's why I've been bringing all of our staff here, all of our players. Coronavirus is a little bit of a stall in the whole process, but it's going to be super amazing. We're super excited to have it in there. So we're starting, it's in construction now. So, you know, everyone internally says, 2 to 3 months. Who knows, right? Construction always goes over. But
right.
I think within this year, you should definitely see our headquarters popping up. So
Team offices, merch. Is it going to be a place where fans can come?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. I think the intent is that. I know it's like a full, they have everything like fully functioning kitchens and content creator space. So I think so.
Okay.
I think we're supposed to have like an area where people can come and have merch.
Okay. Studio
space, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I made sure that I remember Ben was like, he asked me, he was like, how big does the studio need to be? And I remember like giving them dimensions of like a smaller size studio. He's like, you've got to be kidding me. I was like, no, Ben, do you realize like how much space you need for lights or like whatever?
Yeah.
And
well, and all the content, like you said, you're going to have a total schedule, which
Absolutely.
is going to be Monday through even maybe Sunday through Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if
Absolutely.
you film on the weekends as well.
Sometimes, yeah, if we need to.
And
'cause
the
they
guys
can get
play
it.
on the week, or the players play on the
exactly.
weekends too.
So I mean, the goal is to be able to also, if we have streamers or influencers that are remote, like be able to fly them in, batch shoot content, for do a week of shooting and filming, all that kind of stuff, and have that, cool setup space where they can come in, kind of like this, right, where you come in and you have
and a stage like this can transition quickly.
Absolutely.
Right, especially when you have a screen like this where you just throw up a different
Yep.
Mutineers logo's up there now, and then the Mayhem logo's
Yep.
up there, just completely changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. I'm super excited, because we have, again, everyone will be coming together a lot more, which is kind of crazy after being remote for so long in this industry, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot we could talk about as far as the transition goes right now from live, because you guys were just getting ready for your first Overwatch, right?
Yes,
just getting ready, and it was
yes.
that
Oh
weekend
my
that we went
gosh.
into.
It was such a
COVID.
bummer, man.
Yeah.
Like we were like, it was the best and worst fire drill we've ever had. Because to be perfectly honest, before we went into that, I don't think our team was. No one had done anything to that scope. Right. So that was like a big wake up call. Was like, no, we need to be organized.
Meaning for your first home series that you guys were going. Who was playing? It was going to be you, and who were the other three? Was it 3 other teams? Do you remember? Or was it because it's a series? Is not just you guys. It's a few other teams, right?
No, for each home series is hosted by a certain team.
Right.
So it was our team, but you would go on rotation for the different ones.
But Dallas might show up with.
Oh yeah. I don't remember who was competing at that one, but because there's like 5 teams to go to each weekend usually and compete in the tournaments. But I was expect to be in the Wasco Center in Miami. It was like we now in our office we have these like piles of like clappers and all these like different things like. The mask, we have like the Mutineers mask that we made, all this kind of stuff. So,
well, just so you know, and I don't know if you're aware of this, you may or may not be, but David Beckham, who's got the Inter Miami, which is the soccer club down here. Mm-hmm. He's been 2014 is when he announced the team down here. So it's been 6 years that he's been working on it. And finally, the stadium was built. Lockhart Stadium was knocked down. They built a new stadium in Fort Lauderdale. That exact same weekend that you guys were opening was their home opener.
Wow.
They had played 2 away games, one in LA and one somewhere else. That was going to be their home opener as well after 6 years, and that got canceled as well. So it was you guys, because I wanted to go to both.
Yep.
I was looking forward to going to both, and they both got canceled. And I have friends in both organizations,
I know,
so I was very disappointed, and my heart broke for everybody. But I was like, well, it's just so. But where are you guys now? Because we're kind of like still up in the air, right? You guys,
Yeah.
Overwatch is ready, and all these teams are regionally wanting to start building and having home games so their fans
it should
can
be
come watch
next year. I mean, I'm pretty sure for this year, like they're, it's all online, which thank God that we're gaming, right? Because we're able to still compete online, and it's like, although you take a hit, it's still like, well, we can still keep going, right? Narratives are still happening. There's still, views and, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think
unlike pro sports.
Unlike pro sports, yep. So, I mean, we had a lot of, talk about my team getting a lot, but we had a lot of make goods that were put on, the content team, right? Because tons of sponsorships for events or other, one of our partners would be like, wow, we had everything else in traditional sports and now that's all gone. Well, thank God we have you,
Right.
So a lot of pressure there, to be honest. But, I think hopefully, knock on wood, next year will be better. We can get some live events going, but I don't think anyone knows yet the same way, any of us really know what makes sense.
Well, let's land on that last the last topic I want to talk about, because you're looking. You came into the org 3 years ago, approximately. Mm-hmm. We're looking at sustainability for these big orgs.
Yep.
And there's a lot of money behind them, but we need to start having a bunch of different revenue streams and verticals, right?
Yes.
So obviously, ticket revenue is going to be part of that, and you can build more into your sponsorship if you have home games, because you can go get a sponsor to name the stadium, and have a title sponsor there. How are you guys doing right now, and where does most of the revenue come from? Is it sponsorship? Is it is it the merch? Does one brand do better than another?
Yeah, there's a few key places where revenue comes in. Branded content is actually probably the biggest, which we've mostly identified this year.
Great.
So, which means, again, like every time we figure out like where the market's looking for, we have to adapt and build the infrastructure. So I'd actually say currently branded content is the biggest,
branded
right?
content.
So they want to see, clicks, using their keyboard or doing whatever, right?
Yep.
So that's the biggest thing, and like produced.
Right.
So it is different of the days of advertising of, oh yeah, let's use your talent. You come in and we film it. It's more like, no, you're gonna make us an ad. You're gonna make us a branded content in your way and post it on your channels,
and
right?
use your talent.
And use your talent.
Right.
Yep. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for brands.
Right.
Obviously, events, sponsorship opportunities from that are a huge thing. Currently, that's, that side went down, so the other side's had to go up, right? And then merchandise is one. So, I think it depends on the brand. Like the one, again, Misfits, we own the IP, so we can, completely control all the revenue there for like merchandise, for anything like that. So for us, it performs. I don't know what the revenue share, because I'm not like a financial person on our, Mutineers or Mayhem ones, but I know it's more of a split revenue type thing from, that kind of merch, because the league, again, controls more of it. Okay. But for Misfits, that's where we can do like literally whatever. Like, okay, we want to make a Clicks mouse pad. Let's make a Clicks mouse pad. You know what I mean? So merch is definitely one in the future. We hope to see a massive, amount of revenue from that as well.
Awesome. But we are starting to see that. That's one of the things everybody talks about esports and gaming. Like, can it survive? And
you see it, you see really successful. You see like I know G2 is really successful like merchandise sales. So does like 100 Thieves, for example. I know TL as well. Like we're starting to get up there more, but that is pretty proportional to the size of your brand, though, right? Because how many fans you have is how much merch you buy.
Sure.
So that one I think takes a bit of investment in building the brand first before you.
I think that's where it's important. And when you look at these big orgs, I mean, you make money if you win. If you win the championship. If you just like in football, if you win the Super Bowl, you get extra money. But the branded content and that's where 100 Thieves, FaZe Clan, you guys have now gone and built out. You're building out that side of it. But that is an area where even if you don't win,
I mean, there's
a
few reasons why people grow, right? Winning is one of them. It's one of the best marketing tools. The other one is like, personalities and content, basically, right? And that and branding. Actually, really, those are like the two main reasons in esports people grow, right? Talent of the game and winning and content. So if it, one allows for more visibility of sponsors on logos and things like that and jerseys, and the other is how good your production is, right? So it's kind of the two key areas of the business, and the other two affect like merchandise and sales for that. Well,
it's amazing. You guys are doing really cool stuff.
Thank you.
Love it. I love following you. I love following the story. I love following the team. I think everybody should follow you guys and just see what you're doing, because it's pretty incredible and it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of
what
fun.
What you guys are doing is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, every single day is different, right? I don't even, every single challenge I face is from month to month is a completely different type of business challenge or creative or whatever it is. So always changing, always exciting.
Well, so I think that's where you have to have the structure, but you have to be adaptable, right? That's what you're saying. You have your storyline, but then you have to be able to, on a like that, you have to be able to turn.
If you can't be flexible right now, this industry is not for you.
Yeah.
Because nobody's figured it out fully yet. So you have to be quick on your feet, and you have to be able to be, enough infrastructure to support stuff and make stuff, but enough that you can pivot on a dime.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Ella.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Ella for sharing her time, experience, and knowledge with us today. I feel the need to bow in respect to her. No joke. When I think of the sheer number of brands she is leading and the vision, planning, and execution it takes to bring each of them to life, I just shake my head at this monumental task and how she seems to handle it with such ease, energy, and expertise. And if you check out the Misfits, Mayhem, and Mutineer brands, the creativity and story each represents would make any fan proud to wear their gear. I think I sound a little bit out of my element saying it, but everything she does is dope. You can listen to Ella again now, and you can also find timestamp segments of the show, links to her social pages, and more information about her projects and media in the show notes. If you enjoyed our discussion, please let us know. Continue the conversation with me across all social platforms and become a member of the Ultimate Gamer community today by subscribing at ultimategamer.com. We release a new show every day of the week, Monday through Friday, so be the first to join us for some outstanding upcoming guests and or dive back into the library of previous All About the Game pods to hear from some of the most brilliant minds in the space. Experts like esports talent manager Chris Toussaint, esports attorney and legal expert at Carleton Fields, Steve Blickensderfer, and director of esports at Florida Memorial University, Dr. Mark Williams, just to name a few. You can find all these episodes and more on the Ultimate Gamer website, on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your pods. And finally, please like, rate, and review the show. It helps us reach the gaming community to spread the word and share the wisdom of our guests, as well as some of the most thought-provoking stories in the industry. Shout out, as always, to the Ultimate Gamer. I look forward to being with you on the next All About the Game podcast.